Okay, so in the last tutorial, we looked at basically just a high score situation, but it was only checking to see if the individual user had submitted a higher score than whatever their previous one was. Let's take a look at an example where we actually kind of pool high scores together and basically search the database for every user's highest score, right? So what we're going to want to do, and I've actually already gone ahead and set this up, but I'll step you through it again, is we're going to need to add another table. This time what we'll do is we'll call it top scores. So go over here, and I'll repeat what I did before. Go over here to custom. Make sure that's not getting cut off for you guys. And all right, so you're going to put in here top scores, make it public. And what we're going to do in here is put in a hypothetical partition key of country, right? So maybe what we'd want to do is narrow it down by top scores by country, right? So we could basically just say something like, okay, well, only show me the top scores from the USA within a certain range, right? So that's going to be one attribute. Next one, this is going to be our sorting key, is we're going to sort by the top score. Okay, that's going to be a number, and this is going to be a number type, and then finally what we'll have in here is a name. All right, and that's just going to be a string. So obviously, let me just get that. There we go. So obviously, when you submit a top score, something to take along with it would be the name, right? You want to show who did it, and they're going to show you down here some examples, right? Find item with country equaling something or other, and top score equaling 1, 2, 3, right? So they're just giving you some examples, search terms. All right, so go ahead on your end, hit create table, all right? And again, I've already done that, so I'm just going to back out of there and show you. So sure enough, we got partition key country, sort key, top key, and I've already gone ahead and put a few items in here. And we'll need to do that on your end, basically populate your database. So easy way to do that, basically just oh, and you know what? I'm sorry, let me bring that back up. You do at this point want to download your model, your basically your updated iOS Swift model, and that's going to contain now both your high scores and your top scores. Okay, so go ahead and bring this one in. So import that in, just drop it in, and then be sure that you again at this point in time, wherever we're at, November 2017, you do need to put this at objc in front of the variable, and I don't know if that's always going to be the case. They don't have it in there by default. So go ahead and add that in there. And then you can just see, everything looks basically the same as before. It's pointing to the top scores table, blah, blah, blah. It's got all your variables in there, right? Okay, so back over this way, let's just go ahead and copy some of what we did before. So go ahead and copy out this entire function. And let's just call it something like, submit dummy score to database, right? It's basically what we're doing here. So this is going to change from highest scores to top scores. Okay, so just paste that over there. And then the item to create, that is obviously then going to be set to country. And you can go ahead and put in here some mythical country, America, right? And then for the high score, let's get a random high score in here. And to speed us along, let me just go ahead and paste in here. Here, I'll do this up at the top. Just a random number from 0 to 220,000, whatever. And then, so that is going to be whatever this random number is right there. Okay, so, and of course, we want to change this to now being top score, right? And then finally, we get to just come up with some sort of, silly name. Okay, and obviously if we go ahead and rerun this a bunch of times now, it's going to submit the same silly name over and over again. So I would say go ahead and do that, publish it to your phone a few times, touch the begin. You could even put that up there if you wanted to just run it right away. But we should at that point submit this to the database. And let me show you what it's currently looking like. Switch over to console.aws.amazon.com/DynamoDB. Get over here to your tables. Here's the one that I just created. And you can see I've already gone through and populated this a few times with one different country inside of here, and then just a bunch of silly names with random top scores. I did just run the simulator. Let me go ahead and press down on that and see if that, okay, so now when we switch back over here, we should be able to refresh this. Okay, and you can see silly name is in there. All right, so that's obviously working. Come back over this way. Now that hopefully you've done that a few times and you've submitted some dummy scores, just go ahead and comment that out. And obviously, in a real game, this would be something that you would only do, submitting to the top score database after you knew that, well, whatever number score it was at least over some of the other top scores that we've pulled out of the database, right? So that's one of the things we're going to do now, obviously. And function name wise, okay, let's do this. How about, and I'll just call this right here in the did move statement, check with database, and let's make that database for top scores. Okay, and what we'll do is we're going to end up copying this function right here. And I don't think it's going to be a good idea for me to give you guys the entire project as an example for this, but what I will do is just zip up the game scene.swift file, and that way you guys have that, and then you can just pull the code out of there, because I know that these are kind of mighty big chunks of code. Okay, so let's go and get back down here. All right. So I'm going to replace the previous function name with this one, and let's just take this one step at a time here. We can leave this the same. We want to put country in here, okay? And so country is going to equal country, and again, we fill in some different options over here for that. So this just stays the same, and this stays country, where we specify what country we're interested in. That's going to be right here. So remember, we have America in there. And you could replace that with a variable, of course, depending on where you thought the person was from. So now that we've got this in here, we're going to go and put in, just write in all caps, and then what we want to check for is top score between, and then we're going to put in here lower range and upper range. And this lower range and upper range, they don't have any specific meaning code-wise. I'm just coming up with those. I could put anything in there I want for those. This, though, top score, obviously, that's one of our variables over there. So, again, copy this, paste that in there. Let's get top score in, top score. Okay, so those are the attribute names, and then as for the attribute values, go ahead and just copy this out again, and then lower range. Okay, so paste that in, lower range. We can put a 0 here if you want. You could make it a higher number, like if you assume that, okay, well, nobody with a top score is going to be down at 0. They're going to be in the tens of thousands, whatever. So you could start your lower range there just for kind of searching through and pulling out a lower range of numbers. Our upper range, let's go ahead and make that be 50,000. Okay. And again, we can play with these numbers if we just want to, see what changes we get from the query. I guess the main thing to note here, though, is obviously, if you're kind of going through here, so there's lower range, that's 0. You could think of that as being a 0, think of that being a 50,000. So basically, we're looking for a specific country with top scores between 0 and 50,000. Got it? All right, so this needs to change to top scores. And then let's go ahead and leave in most of our notes. Querying, we'll want to read that. Got a response. Okay, so first thing over here, what we could do is just put in here nothing in that range, right? And then let's take this out. We'll get down here to our else statement. And down here, you know what? Let's go ahead, take out everything inside of there. Okay, so that'll kind of see what's going on over this way. we will change this to top score, but we need to start thinking about what we're doing with these numbers once we actually get them. Okay, so let's real quick head back over here, head up to the top of the file, and I'll explain what we're going to do here. We're going to create two arrays, actually a few arrays. All scores, this is going to be an array that just has integers in it. Okay, all names, this is going to be all the names of the people that we get out of that query. All right, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a separate array down here for sorting these guys. Okay, so sorting from highest to lowest, the scores that we get out. Okay, and then we're going to have a lookup dictionary, which is basically just going to be used to pair the score with the name. Okay, and the format for that is going to be, the keys are all going to be integers, the values are all going to be string. So there is our dictionary. Okay, and then let's head back down to our function. Okay, instead of existing score here, let's just change this to something like found top score, right? Okay, so basically if that passes as a number, right, good to go on that end, in which case let's go ahead and just write self.allScores.append. So we're getting, and we need to change that to found top score dot int value. Okay, all right, so that's gonna start populating that one array. Then the next thing we want to do here, let's tighten this up a little bit, is while we're iterating through the responses, we want to, and don't put this in an else if statement, okay? Be sure you don't do that, otherwise it's not going to get put in. We want to also grab the name out of there, all right? So let's just put this as found name. And of course, you know, these are going to be coming to you in pairs here, where the top score and the name are always, you know, when we add them to their respective arrays, they're always going to be, you know, at the same index. So basically the first one's always going to be the first score with the first name, right? And all right, that's going to be all names. Okay, so found name, and then this, obviously we don't need to convert to an integer. Okay, so we got found name, found name. Then, actually, sorry, above, oh, and I need to change this to a string, that's all. Okay, and then above here, let's go ahead and clear these out before we start populating them. So, you know, in this case, you could rerun this multiple times. So all names dot remove all, self dot all scores dot remove all. So that's going to clear out those arrays. And if you wanted, you could always print out, just to kind of see what's going on behind the scenes here, you could always print out the response dot items just to give you an idea of everything it finds, essentially. All right, and then coming down here, oh, that's okay. I'm going to comment it out because that'll bother me. But all right, now after the for statement, what we want to do is sort these scores. Okay, so we've gotten them all out, right? It iterated through everything. So we're going to call this function sort scores, and that's actually the last function we're going to need to write here. Of course, it's telling us right now we don't have that function yet. But here we go, sort scores. And this should tie it all together. Okay, one thing you could do as just kind of a catch-all to, you know, make sure that there aren't going to be any issues. You could make sure that all scores count and all names count equal each other. So if those two do not equal each other, return, and you could print something in here like, uh-oh. But otherwise, everything should run fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to iterate through all the scores. And to do that, we just put for score in all scores, right? And what we're going to do is start to populate this lookup dictionary over here, all right? So to do that, we're going to put in here lookup dict. All right, so remember I said then basically what we put over here is going to be the key, and then what that key equals is going to be on the other side of this equal sign. And what we want to do is make that equal to whatever item we're at in here for all names. So basically the first time this iterates through, you know, 0 is the first item, iterating through these things. So, 0 would be the first thing we want over there. But to do this, let's just make a little cheap variable. I equals int. Okay. So the first time around, that's going to equal 0. And then all we have to do is put I plus equals 1. And that right there is going to fill up our dictionary. Keys are the score. All the names are the corresponding person. And then what we'll do is, again, kind of planning ahead if you were to rerun this multiple times. Let's remove all the previous scores out of the score array. Of course, the first time we run this, they're going to be empty anyway. That's okay. And then we're going to say score array is going to equal all scores dot sorted by, and here's a cool little bit of code. You just put in here the less than, or I can't remember which. Put in this one, and that is going to sort them by ascending scores. So the highest score is going to be the first item in there, and then right now you've got your scores sorted in here. Okay, so if we wanted to just kind of print out what those are, what we could do, what each one is, you could put for score in score array. Now keep in mind those are sorted, so now the first score that we iterate through here is going to be the highest one. So you could put in here print, and then in quotes backslash. Okay, so these are going to be where our variables are. So we could write, let's put in lookup dict, and something is ringing. Okay, lookup dict. First one we'll put in here is score. Actually, no. Let's do that the second one. So we'll list out the names first. So we'll say, oh no, and I actually do have that right. I'm sorry. So essentially, when you're putting in here the score, right, this is going to end up finding the value, right? Because we're basically putting in the key. So then got a score of, and then here's where we put the score, right? And if we want to get really fancy with this, we could do something like, put in here var index int equals 1, and then we could write in slash index. So that's going to replace out whatever that equals. So this would be like in one place, first place, whatever. And then we put the name, got a score of, and then of course you want to iterate up index plus equals 1. And if you wanted, you could break out of this entire thing after a certain number. So let's say if the index got above 5, then we just stop sorting through these. So, where you could use this is, let's suppose we had a UI label on here. So like label.text could equal, and you could actually just use this right here. You can just throw that out there, right? So I think let's go and check with database for top scores. Let's go and put this. Oh, we've already got in the beginning. All right, so let's go ahead and run it, and we'll see what happens. And it's time to see if everybody got the same error I did. Probably not, because you know what? I put a stupid space in there. Let's try that one more time. Always check for spaces. You don't want those in there. Okay, and this time around it's telling me that okay, the attribute name country is still not defined. All right, did I mess this up twice? Is that what's going on here? Cripes, I'm a bad programmer today. I did it in 2 places, there and there. Okay, let's, yeah, there's tons of spaces in here. What is going on? I don't think I put in any of those. I was probably trying to do that, separate these. Okay, third time's a charm. Here we go. This is going to be it. I can just feel it. And sure enough, here we go. As soon as it runs, got a response. Okay, Burpee got a score of, all right, that's obviously higher than that one. That's higher than that one. That's higher than that one. And of course, we're only seeing the 5 places. That's exactly what we want to see out of this. If we wanted to take a look at the entire response, let's go ahead and look at it too. just to see. And of course, at this point, I think it'd be a good idea on your end to just kind of tinker around with what some of these numbers are and see how that changes the response. And yep, sure enough, there they all are. All the responses in here. Well, actually, I should say all the responses that where country equals America. Okay, so if we were to then put in here America 2, because remember my dummy database has one entry in there with America 2. Let's see what happens. Okay, sure enough, in first place we've only got Bobby from America 2. He's the only resident there, printing up his own money. But, you know, he is free. That's the most important thing. He's free to do whatever he wants in America, too. Okay, that'll do it. And like I said, I'll zip up the code so you got that, just because we got this CocoaPod file, all this other stuff stuffed in here. Probably not a good idea to give you guys that whole thing. You should be following along with your own file anyway. All right, that'll do it for this video.